So this is Assassin's Creed Shadows. We are in the Osaka region, and this is night, but the lighting is very interesting, and we'll be able to see enough of the details of the materials, so we'll be analyzing modular kits and material blending. Our goal is to understand how it was done and the intent, how basically to do a lot with as little as possible in a way. The techniques that are used so that it looks that it belongs, right? This is the same part of the town, so the same materials would have been used. It's credible, but also it doesn't just look completely cut and paste, right? Copy and paste. So there are many techniques that are involved in those, and this is foundation of AAA large environment building. So disclaimer, I did not work on Assassin's Creed Shadows. I will not be revealing any kind of secrets of production. I am only analyzing standard workflows of AAA video game environment. So following the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows last week, we have now an art blast on ArtStation. So let's look into the work of the art team and understand how exactly things were done. So here we are in PureRef, and I did a quick curation of some of the stuff that was released, some of the great work that was released on ArtStation, and let's look into it. So let me start with this one here, and I always want to give credit to the artist. So this is the work of Felix Robitaille, and we have some explanation of what was done. So this is very interesting, like to gain insight on how this is done. Well, let's ask the people who actually did it. So the work that was done on this part from this artist was to, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically work on a kit of houses, explaining like the system that they used. And basically for this kit, he produced the version L1 to L2. Basically L0 to L2. Basically this is kind of almost blockout level, like very basic, to pretty close to the final version that's in the game. So it's also always a collaboration. AAA games are not done, parts are not done by just one person, small parts, and then it's always a team effort to coordinate the work. So this is a screenshot, wonderful screenshot of a small village with those houses. So I particularly like the GIF image, which shows us the, I wouldn't say infinite, but the many possibilities of this very kit. So the roofs might be completely different. The walls, the windows, the doors, all the parts are quite different. Yet they all fit, I would say, in the same art direction, in the same architectural range that can be found in one region. So this is a great way to understand. And then like I have to highlight that we are very lucky these years to be able to have access to that kind of information, those breakdowns from great artists, from great studios producing great games. It used to be a bit harder to come by, but here we are, and we have very high quality images of the kits that were used, and we can see and understand better how those houses are created, assembled together, right? And all those things are called, one set is called a kit, right? It's like one kit. And then that allows for multiple reuse for this type of house. But imagine the number of houses. Well, we kind of have an idea here because It's a lot. A lot of different houses can be created this way. This is, of course, fences and, frames, door frames. You have some that are broken, different corners, like all the possibilities are basically laid out here with different measures, right? Probably 1 meter, 2 meters, and this one would be 4. This one here should be 3. It's all standard. It has to make sense, right? So that multiple people can work on it and it's easy to use. So now here we have like a overall shot of many different houses with different stories. We see the floor being kind of exploded so that we can see inside. It's great work, and this is one of my favorite type of renders. It's side by side. It is using the same kit. There are small, of course, there are small props that are added, that are created by 3D modelers, other artists specialize in this. But then you can see all the variation, and this is how you can have very large games, very large environments with different towns, different cities, different rural settlements with that level of variation. And at the end of the day, the cost of all of those assets is not that great. Next, we have the work of Charles-Henri Bernier, who worked on an architectural kit. He's giving credit here. I can show the artists that were involved in that part. And we have the screenshots, the beauty shots, which are very nice. And then we have the breakdown, and they are wonderful. So you see this house in how many smaller parts they were divided. That obviously again allows for mass reusability. So the same kit, which we can use in so many different contexts. And now you have basically the full kit, I guess, right? So you have this is a phenomenal example of how should we approach modular building kits. You study the architecture, of course, to understand the needs, and then you break it down in as many pieces as will be necessary to basically, switch and use in a different context, so you have a different looking structure. And this is all basically pretty much clean versions, right? We're not talking about vertex painting, decals, and anything else that can be used. I'm not aware of exactly everything that they use in what capacity, but this is what is used in environment for AAA. So the basic version, they kind of all look similar-ish, but with vertex painting, decals, and other tricks, everything looks somehow unique or at least different enough, right? So we have also a very cool insight, and we cannot zoom in here and understand exactly what was done, but so what was created is a blender material to bake procedural first pass into the vertex color of the architectural elements, thus making this production step faster and visually more consistent across the kit. Additional polish was done manually. So basically, instead of having to do vertex paint on every single pass, there apparently, from what I understand, there was like an already existing first pass, right? So that's a great insight, and we are very thankful for sharing with the community, with the students, and with everybody interested in understanding how these things are done. So we have like on productions, and I was not part of this production, so I'm not savvy to the details, but we have generally the common techniques are vertex painting, use of decals, RGB masks. Those are all very common and pretty much used everywhere. But on each production, well, smart artists, tech artists, environment artists, material artists, they come up with their own tricks and they improve the pipeline, the workflow, so that things are easier, faster, and better. Now we have the work of Maxime Ducasse, who on this post is focusing on the roofs. So we have a very complete roof kit for one region. So we can take a look at the beauty shot and a great angle to see basically what is somehow the same roof, right? I mean, everything is coming from the same kit, but it looks interesting and it looks believable and credible, and it works wonderfully. Now you can see, and you can also appreciate the probably vertex painting that's going on. So it's not just, cut and paste the exact same asset. And you can see here a little bit better. So you have also, you can see geo variation, right? It's not like super straight, everything. It looks like it's been built by humans, right? It's man-made. It's a little bit chaotic. It's not perfectly aligned. So that adds a lot of realism. And then with the materials, you have the moss that is painted, and you see that there are more moss on top and a little less going down. That is going with the realistic analysis of the references, right? Like how nature behaves, how these things get mossy. It's really, really beautiful work. Then you see the corners, and then you see like another shot of a great, great kit. Next, we will look into the destruction part of the environment art department, or more accurately, the destructed assets. So that is very interesting because it's handled the same way. So we have here Jerrol Cadores. So he worked on the destroyed rural house kit, created a module variation from walls, roofs, pillars, add-on extension, and group setups. So basically, and this is a fantastic shot, we see very different structures and the pieces that were necessary in order to get there. And we have so many different pieces to look at. The roofs, this is the finished versions of 3 little houses. And here we have some more. And you can see you can have super small houses, larger houses. There is a lot of stuff that this kit allowed. And it's exactly the same principle, just that, well, it involves a little bit more, it's a bit more tricky, right, than flat walls and corner walls. Like you have also some pieces, some rubbles on the floor, some piles of broken stuff, and it works perfectly. Next up, in the same department, we have Gian Collantes, and here is the final shot, which is beautiful. We have the complete structure here. From this angle, well, we see some destruction. Actually, we see a little bit more here, and then, of course, the most destroyed part. And we can take a look at this kit, which is very different, you see, because it's using different type of materials. And of course, there is a bit more work involved, a little bit more material needs, because this needs to be burnt, needs to look like it's been burnt and destroyed. And then there are some parts hanging from it, as we can see very well here. And this is very, very interesting. So this basically would answer the question of a junior or an artist with little experience in this topic, going like, okay, how do I create destruction? Well, this is the way. You don't need to use a modular kit, but in the context of AAA, where many different buildings will be destroyed, a kit is then necessary. And here you have kind of a discoloration more than destruction, like heavy wear and tear. And here you have something very interesting also, the beams, the wood beams, like different levels, different heights, and burnt to ashes. This is really, really great work also. So great work on the destruction team. Now moving on to the material art department. And this, I mean, this is a huge department. Obviously, I chose 3 different artists, and I will start with Vincent Dérozier, who explains quite a bit of the process. That's actually, if you are interested in the materials of Assassin's Creed Shadows, go and have a look at Vincent Dérozier's page. He very generously gives tons of information and insights, and it is really, really worth it. So this is a beautiful shot with many of the materials created and use in context. And here we have a bit more information, which is very interesting. So this is the overview of the different exterior type of floors he did for the Fortress kit, and that were used heavily throughout the game. Then right here you have an amazing material, which Vincent calls Tiles Floors Recipe made in clay. You can see similar flooring in Imeji courtyards. Here we have great insight in the technique. So on the left, right here, you have the stone material in Substance Designer, which is very beautiful. It's amazing. It's done completely in Substance Designer. Then it's brought in ZBrush and it is displaced, and the mesh is then worked on. And the final floor, this on the right here, is the final floor painted in engine, enhanced by the modeling push. So basically he calls this the modeling push, which by getting into ZBrush and, well, I guess doing some fine detailing, right, of the sculpting of these guys, of these tiles, and then by decimating, because you cannot, of course, deal with millions of polygons, but you see that this is decimated, so it's more geometry than nothing, right? Than flat surface, but this is not too crazy. So this is manageable by any engine, right? And then done here with the material that it's, I mean, you recognize, right? You can see this style is, well, no, it's not similar. It has been greatly enhanced by the sculpting, of course. And you see also like the roughness is a bit more coming out, probably because of the geo, right? Because it's not flat anymore. So let's take a closer look in how that part was done. So we're very lucky. We have a lot of explanations here. So in-engine screenshot of the 3 main walls chunk that compose the fortress with vertex painting to showcase the recipe. So that's great. So you see that the whole huge, well, this is one of many. So those huge surfaces are actually taken care of by 3 pieces that are fitting together. That's fantastic. And of course, with vertex painting, changing, well, color variations, and then the moss, and then other stuff. This is how it works. Now, a little bit further for other parts, we have the ZBrush render of the base recipe. A tileable wall with a modular top to cap the upper section, baked corner, and corner top and standalone stones. So by using that and shuffling probably the top, maybe we have different versions, or just having those extra pieces that can be put here and there, this is how you break, this is how you create variation and how you break the repetition. Now next we have this piece here, which is very important. So on the left we have the baked wall chunk in Substance Painter with its specific normal and custom mask for material layering. So, well, this is some kind of RGB masks. Material layering is basically, it's not the same thing, but it's going for the same result. And then we have this piece, which is very important, those 2 renders. So this is how we understand how the blending is done. So we've seen it in game with the small houses in Osaka. We have up to 3, maybe 4 different materials that are blended with vertex painting. And here we have a very, very complete explanation. So basically on this side, we have this kind of a plaster, for use of better term, not sure it's really plaster, but some kind of. Then here you have the kind of mud, dried mud. Here you have a mix of both with vertex painting. And you have the structure, the inner structure with bamboo stems. And here you have, well, those which are blended and many variations. So this is how the game doesn't look, well, so repetitive. It doesn't look that everything is the same. And this is why it's so interesting. And here we have another artist, Pablo Blanes, who worked on the dock kit. So again, you can see there's a long list of people who worked alongside. And he focused on the wood. And I want to point out, like, this is a great wood material. This is done in Substance Painter, I assume. And wood is absolutely everywhere, right, in this time period. And so the assets, the buildings, but everything around is also made out of wood. So of course there are some repetition, if you will, but nothing looks like, this is really something that struck me when I was playing the game. The wood looks really, really good, and it doesn't look like it doesn't look boring or generic, or that it's the same everywhere. And this is thanks to a lot of variation, color variation. You have discoloration, desaturation, and also the geometry that is used on the asset is good, right? Nothing is extremely low poly. It is super well optimized. If you look at it, we'll have an example down further down, but see, like this is convincing, right? For wood that has been heavily used, it's a bit broken, but it's still standing. And here we have a very nice example on the sides. And honestly, everything looks very, very good. Both the geometry, both the materials. Here we have other cases. Here, this is very interesting also. Those kind of beams, those poles that are used for gameplay, for Naoe. I think probably Yasuke can jump on those. I'm honestly not so sure. But Naoe definitely can breeze through. And yeah, they look very good. They are not using super complex geo, but maybe a bit more than some of the planks. But that is, again, great work. Moving on to another material artist, Tsvetelina. So this is in the gym, and it looks very good. We have this type of house, and we see that. So that, then again, this is the focus is on wood, not only, but as you can see, this has a different kind of wear and tear. So it's very interesting to have a closer look. Look at those assets. And you see it's meant for being a different type of wood. So it ages and it looks different when it gets dirty or it gets used. So this is super interesting. It has totally different coloration. And we can appreciate the reuse. If you look closely, you can see which like big line is maybe I'm wrong here. Is it reuse here? No, I don't even think so. So the vertex painting is doing a phenomenal job because it really hides, it helps to hide all the repetition. Here we have the doors, which are very nice, and you see the weathering and the wear and tear is great. Here, some different variations of the roof, of the corner for the roofs. Same here, and you can appreciate again the vertex painting here and how you can make those parts look really different, like just by blending differently with different weight or different, I would say, intensity. This is awesome work. Congratulations to the team who worked on Assassin's Creed Shadows. Congratulations to the art team. Thank you very much also for sharing on ArtStation. This art blast has been very informative, and hopefully a lot of people can learn a little bit more about AAA environment art.